The wind is blowing, the snow is falling, and the temperatures are dropping outside. And all you can think about is how you'd like to be wrapped in a warm blanket sitting next to your fireplace with something substantial, warm and delicious to ease the cold that you feel. Nothing like a crappy cup of cocoa is gonna do. No, today it's going to be smoky, savory winter squash soup. Oh yeah, that's the ticket. So I was down in my palatial underground bunker during the massive freezing cold winter blizzard we just had, enjoying some of my Smokey Dave's savory winter squash soup with Smokey Dave cheese and crumbled bacon, when it occurred to me, perhaps my viewers would like to enjoy this bountiful and delicious meal as well. So, enjoy. Now here's our final product. A delicious warm soup with crumbled bacon, smoked Parmesan, and some chives. Now to begin our recipe, we'll start out with 4 pounds of winter squash. Now what I have here is butternut, but you can use pumpkin, you can use acorn, or any other yellow-orange style winter squash. Now this butternut squash I'm using here was already pre-cubed and skinned from the store. But normally I would simply just buy butternut or grow it in my garden. And these cubes I froze, which will make it easier to take in smoke and also to blend when it's time to cook and blend this down into the smooth, thick soup that we're going to make. Before we go on, I'm going to drain these the squash bits, get a little extra water out. And we're going to move on to our next ingredient, of course, which is a pound of new red potatoes. By new, I mean smaller, younger. They're very creamy, and they'll add an additional layer of creaminess to the soup. And all we're going to do is slice them in half. Going to leave the skins on. And of course, the potatoes and the squash will be going into the smoker, which we'll see here in a minute. Now, I'm going to be using some cherry wood that was gifted to me by my son and daughter-in-law. And that's going to be going in with a little bit of pecan and, of course, our secret ingredient, some sprigs of rosemary. So there they are in the smoke generator. Well, the smoker is ready, so I'm going to put in the potatoes and the squash now. They're going to be going on the lower rack. And as usual, I'll be doing some cheese on the upper rack because why waste smoke if you have it? Okay, so the squash and potatoes have been smoking for about an hour, and I'm going to take them out now and put them in this pan. So let me unload that. Of course, the cheese will stay in for another hour, but we're ready to go up and take this upstairs and process it. So I'll see you up in the kitchen. All right, we're back up in the kitchen, and the next ingredient we're going to prepare is a full head of garlic. Now, I'm going to slice just the tips of the garlic cloves off with a very sharp knife. And once I get the tips cut off, I will then drizzle just a little bit of olive oil on top, wrap it up in tin foil, and into the oven it goes. Now we're going to set the oven at 400 degrees, and we're going to put the garlic in there along with our squash and potato pan. Everything is going to be cooking at 400 degrees, but the garlic will only stay in for about 10 minutes. I just took the lid off of that, and boy, does that smell good. The smoke is coming out. It's ready to go. Okay, before we put that in the oven, we're going to add onion, and we're going to mince this onion and fry it in the frying pan until it's just caramelized and soft. So I'm chopping these up into a minced condition, and then adding a little bit of olive oil there. And we'll sweat them out, get them nice and caramelized. And then we'll add that to our squash and potato mix. And along with the onions, we'll also be adding our garlic that we previously roasted. So let me unwrap that, and I'll squeeze out each of the cloves into the pan. And once we get all those in, we'll be ready to put the pan in the oven at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes to an hour. Basically, we'll keep it in there until both the potatoes and the squash are very soft and pretty much just mush with the press of a spoon. Well, we're ready to put this in the oven now at 400 degrees for 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm using a pizza stone here to regulate the heat a little bit on that pan so things don't burn on the bottom of it. While that's cooking, why don't we work on our garnish? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to cook up some nice hickory smoked bacon. And I have a little trick that I like to use called a bacon press. That keeps the bacon down flat while it's cooking, so it cooks evenly, and we have nice, beautiful strips of bacon ready to crumble up to put on our soup. So I'm just going to roll these up in some paper and some paper towels to get the grease, extra grease out anyway. And now I just dumped the pan from the oven into our pot here, and as you can see, I pinched the skin off of those potatoes. And now I'm going to add a full cup of heavy whipping cream. And then, of course, after this, we're going to add in all of our seasonings. So let's talk about that. So we're going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon of thyme, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin, a 1/4 teaspoon of either white or black pepper, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're also going to have a little sprig of rosemary that we'll throw in near the end of the cooking process just to add a little extra flavor. Now, if you like a sweeter soup and not as savory, you can substitute a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg for the cumin, and that'll give it a little bit more of a sweeter, more pumpkin pie kind of attitude, if that's what you like. All right, we're going to dump in our 1.5 pints of bone broth. Now, this is smoked chicken bone broth from our previous video. As you can see, it's still a little bit frozen, but that's okay, as the heat from the pre-cooked squash and everything else is going to quickly melt that. And we'll add in all of our spices that we just went over. Again, I want to mention that the cumin, if you want a bit more of a pumpkin pie flavor, substitute that with some nutmeg. Now we get everything all mixed together, and we will begin the immersion blending process. So here we go. All right, the soup is completely blended. I put in the sprig of rosemary, and I'm going to let it sit here on the stove at medium heat for about 20 minutes, just to fully cook. And then it'll be ready to serve. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. A winter, warming, savory, smoky squash soup, ready to warm the cockles of your heart. Now go run and look that word up. It's a real word. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching another episode of Smokey Dave Presents, the first of 2023. I hope it warmed your heart and your stomach, and if it did, would you consider hitting that like button? And if you haven't subscribed, think about subscribing, because we'll be bringing more content like this for the year to come. Also, if you're interested in any of the items I use, like the bacon press or the immersion blender or the pans or anything like that, I'm going to leave links below. Those, if you shop through those links, it really helps the channel. Doesn't cost you anything. I get a little bit of a commission for that, and it makes it a little easier to bring these videos if I have a little money coming in. So it's always nice. Anyway, I hope you have a great new year, this 2023, and I'll see you next time on Smokey Dave Presents. And don't forget, it's no joke. Everything is better with smoke.